An oceanographer named Tom, his wife Julia, and their two kids, Cassie and Ben, decided to go on a yacht trip in the Caribbean Sea. While Tom and Ben were busy fighting and Cassie was listening to music, Julia decided to take a swim. As she moved through the water, she felt uneasy, like something large and threatening was nearby. At the same time, the yacht's instruments started malfunctioning, but Tom, distracted by fishing, ignored the strange readings. Julia's uneasiness soon turned to panic. She was struggling in the water and screamed for help, but her family didn't hear her at first. The sea seemed to pull her further from the yacht. Finally, Tom heard her cries, steered the yacht closer, and dove in to save her. With the help of the children, they brought Julia back aboard and revived her. Furious, Tom reminded Julia of his rule: always let someone know before swimming. Julia apologized and they moved on from the scare, focusing on Ben's 13th birthday. They celebrated with cake and gifts, and Cassie even took a family photo. During the celebration, Cassie got a call from her boyfriend, who mentioned a swim they'd planned. Then she heard a violent storm starting in the background. Worried, Cassie told her parents about the storm. But before they could react, the yacht began to shake. Rushing outside, the family was shocked to see huge dead whales floating around the yacht. Tom explained that whales could be disoriented during storms, but now the massive creatures were pushing against the boat, creating danger. Tom dove into the water to inspect the damage, but returned injured after cutting his shoulder on the propeller. Julia stitched his wound while Tom explained that the boat's shaft were probably damaged, making it hard to navigate. Despite their limited supplies, only enough water for 4 days, Tom reassured everyone that they were in a shipping lane, increasing their chances of being found. However, strange noises from outside drew their attention. When they stepped out, they saw glowing objects falling from the sky, getting closer every moment. Desperate, Tom started the engine and moved the yacht to avoid one of the falling objects. But the damaged engine soon failed. One object crashed dangerously close, and they realized these were satellites. As more satellites fell, strong winds picked up, causing the yacht's instruments to malfunction completely. Overwhelmed with fear, the family retreated to the cabin, put on life jackets, and held on as waves violently rocked the boat. A strange ringing noise filled the air, causing nosebleeds. Tom fired a flare gun to signal for help, but no one came. After a terrifying night, they survived, but when they stepped outside, they were shocked. The ocean had vanished, and the yacht was stranded in the middle of a dry, rocky desert. Tom tried to reassure the family, saying others might have survived. But as he studied the surroundings, he realized the compass was broken, and the Earth's poles had shifted. A rare but devastating event. The sea had receded, and Tom feared the worst for humanity. Unable to process the situation, Cassie retreated to the cabin. Julia took inventory of their supplies while Ben released colorful balloons, hoping someone might see them. Soon after, they received a radio message from a submersible captain named Now. He explained they were deep underwater during the disaster, which saved them from the worst effects. However, Now warned that the sea would return in about a week, and it would be dangerous. He told them to move to higher ground as soon as possible. Tom begged Now to rescue the children. Now hesitated because his submersible was small and could only take one person. After some convincing, he agreed to take both kids. The family set out to meet Now, planning to reach the rendezvous point in a few days. The next morning, as they prepared to leave, Tom noticed a man with a dog approaching. Trying to be friendly, Tom offered him water, but the man suddenly attacked, stabbing Tom with a makeshift spear. Julia ran to help but was chased back to the yacht, where she barely managed to lock the doors. She hid the children in a locker and gave Cassie a flare gun, telling her to use it only as a last resort. The intruder broke into the yacht, forcing Julia to hide in the bathroom while tending to her wound. The man, clearly starving, searched the galley for food. Julia sneaked out but was attacked by his dog. In a desperate struggle, she killed the dog. The man, furious, confronted her, but Cassie fired the flare gun, injuring him and starting a fire. Julia grabbed a bag of supplies and fled with the kids. Ben found Tom's body and cried over it. Julia kissed her husband goodbye as the yacht exploded behind them. They ran across the rocky desert lit by the burning wreckage. They found a canyon to rest in, but discovered the nearby water was salty and undrinkable. Ben felt guilty, thinking the balloons had attracted the man, but Julia reassured him it wasn't his fault. That night they spotted the man still following them. Later they found a dead shark and tried to butcher it for food. But Julia saw the man closing in and told the kids to run. Their escape led them into a toxic waste field left from the ocean floor. Dehydration hit Ben hard, so Julia gave him their last drops of water. Cassie, overwhelmed, broke down, but Julia encouraged them to keep going. They eventually found a plane wreck and rested inside. To lift their spirits, Julia shared the story of how she met Tom, remembering his warmth and humor. That night, Julia ambushed the pursuing man, stabbing him in a fierce fight. By morning, they discovered his body had been scavenged by other creatures, a sign of more dangers ahead. Ben spotted a puddle of water and ran to it, ignoring Julia's warnings. He drank it but collapsed in pain. It was contaminated. Julia dragged him away. They found shelter under debris, but Julia heard noises and woke the kids. They ran to a shipwreck surrounded by survivors hiding in containers. Julia begged for help, but the terrified people locked themselves inside. Suddenly, monstrous crabs attacked, tearing through the survivors' containers and killing everyone. Julia was badly injured as she fought to protect the kids, helping them climb into a container. By morning, she woke alone, but found her kids nearby with scavenged supplies. Julia used a radio to contact Now, who warned that the sea would soon return, bringing even greater dangers. He launched a flare to show his location, and the family began their final journey. As they made their way through a rocky canyon filled with toxic waste, the ground beneath them became increasingly unstable. Suddenly, a loud rumble echoed through the canyon, and massive rocks began tumbling down from above. Julia yelled for her children to run, but as they tried to escape, a large rock crashed between them, separating Julia from Cassie and Ben. Trapped on the other side of the rock slide, Julia shouted for her children to keep going and save themselves. She begged Cassie to protect her younger brother and reach the submersible before it was too late. Cassie, reluctant and in tears, finally agreed and led Ben forward, leaving Julia behind. Cassie and Ben eventually reached Now's submersible. Now, gravely injured, stumbled out and directed them to prepare to dive. However, Cassie refused to leave without her mother. With fierce determination, she turned back to find Julia. Meanwhile, Julia was still in the canyon, using her last bullets to fend off the relentless crabs closing in on her. Just as Julia was on the brink of giving up, she saw Cassie scaling the rocky barrier to reach her. Cassie extended her hand, her face full of resolve, and Julia summoned the last of her strength to grab it. Together they climbed over the rocks and escaped the swarming crabs. They reunited with Ben at the submersible just as the massive wave signaling the sea's return loomed on the horizon. With no time to spare, the family boarded the submersible, narrowly avoiding the deadly force of the returning ocean. As the ocean returned with massive waves, the submersible was swept inland. When they emerged, they found themselves in a ruined city far from the sea. The world they knew was gone forever. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the other videos on the channel.